Today is the 7th of May 2021, and if you want to save some money, there are a few things you can do yourself if you have a master cooler on top of your house, or you can have maintenance come and do it, and most likely the things that are a couple of years old, they will say that needs to be replaced, but not so quick. If you keep an eye every year, you do your own maintenance, there are a few things that you must always check. The oil here in this area right here, there is a spot where you can put some oil in there. This kind of oil, no big deal. The thing is, you make sure you oil it when you turn it. It's nice and clean, no weird noises coming out of it. So the oil got to it. The belt is important, not too tight, not too loose. This pump is this extra, but if you want to add another pump, what it is going to take the water. It's going to cycle the water every 7 or 8 hours, and it's going to dump it outside. You can do it in the yard, but it will cycle your water once every 8 hours or so if you leave your cooler running all the time. I guess it has some kind of a timer. If not, you can do it manually. I believe there is a way to do it. Another thing that is important is the motor. The motor has a place where you can add a little bit of oil, the same oil, but you don't have to do it every year. Usually, if the motor is running smooth, the oil is there, every couple years you can add some oil, 2 or 3 years, it should be fine. And the outside of the master cooler is not too impressive. But that's what happened. If you ask for a company to come and do it for you, they're going to say, yeah, we'll do it, but you know what, that size needs to be replaced, and maybe one of your legs on the swamp cooler needs to be replaced, so might as well, you know what, you need a new cooler. And now we're talking about $700 plus $800 plus the installation and all the other parts that come along with it. So you have to come to a deal with nature here. You have the corrosion that is most likely, you cannot avoid this on the long run, but as long it's not leaking water, it's fine. The legs, you can replace them. As a matter of fact, I already replaced this leg on this one, but they will tell you that you had to replace the whole unit. Not so. So this, since it is a master cooler, these pads are special. They are very heavy because of the caliche. Caliche is another thing you're going to have to live with it, and you have to come to a balance with the caliche. It's kind of a compromise. On this side right now, it looks that it's been used. Yes, it's been used at least 3 to 4 years. I would say 3 years for sure, but they advertise them for 5 years. So what's the deal then? See, on the other side is in a lot better shape. So you see them like this, and as long as they can absorb the water evenly, if they can get wet, and absorb the water, they are still good for another year. And now you can save, this probably will go for $100 plus for the whole set. So you add in 100 here, 200 there, plus a new cooler. Yeah, it can get expensive real quick. Now here's the same thing about the oil. You see, this is what I was talking about. You just put some oil there once a year. Make sure this thing turns and there's no weird noise coming out of it. So don't worry too much about the corrosion. This is unavoidable. You can buy a new one and within 2 years it will show symptoms of corrosion. And but they're still good. They go for a few more years. So again, if you get a company to come and do it for you, they, of course, their business is to sell you a new master cooler or whatever. So they're going to go and say, this needs to be replaced, this is almost gone, don't take any chances with it. And they ended up selling you a whole new deal. Okay, so, well, I guess if you have the money to spare like that, it's no big deal. The rest of the unit, as you can see, is in good shape, you know, inside. So it's just like an old airplane. I used to work with B-52s, and the B-52s came to the mission when I was born in 1954, in that decade. And you know what? The B-52 is still flying. And what they do the same things we're doing here. They take care of the inside the best they can and keep the outside in shape. And the bird is still flying. And the Air Force saves a lot of money by doing that. So other things that are important is did I mention the real pump now? The pump that pulls the water out of the tank inside is like this one here. So every year you're gonna have caliche all over the place. So I took this one out and with a water hose kind of clean up a little bit, get the caliche out of the way. Caliche will get hard. It will get hard on any surface. So you got to be careful how you do it. But then this pump, and you can see it's not a huge pump, it's a 7500 unit. So for the size of this cooler and the size of the house, it should work. So 1 year at a time, and that'll do the trick, and you don't have to buy a new pump every time. Now this part over here doesn't look too good, but this part is made to be like this. Caliche will attach to it. It is unavoidable. So you can get some caliche out and it will look better, but it's not going to affect the performance because this is just a cover. It's a cover that goes on top, so it looks nice. But underneath is this part here, which is very important because you got the little holes. So the pump will draw the water through this piece of hose. Is attached to here, and then the water is going to come out on this little holes in here. You see 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 all the way to the end. Well, this end has to be capped. Water cannot come out of here and water cannot come out of here. It has to be capped on both sides. So the thing is, you need to make sure that you get the caliche inside of it the best you can. And if you can remove the cap, in this case I was not able to remove the cap. It's been there for many times. This has been recycled many times. So when I buy a new one, I'll buy a new one, that's fine, but I use the best I could with it. So it will give me, I don't know, 5 years. Sometimes it will give you 8, 10 years. Who knows? Make sure that all the caliche inside is out the best you can, and then these holes are clean so the water will come out. So this is very, very important, because this is how the water is gonna come out of these holes in here, and it's gonna come in top of this, and from here is gonna drain all the way down into the pads, and the water will wet these pads in a way that when air filter through it, that's the air being produced by suction. This kind of turbine here, what I showed you before, it turns, is drawing air inside from the outside. This is the outside. It's going to have that grill that you see over there. That grill goes in here. So the turbine is going to pull the air in, and since these pads are wet, completely wet, it's going to suck all that moisture, humedad, moisture is going to draw all that inside the system, inside the house. It's going to go like a regular I don't know, how do you call it, air conditioner unit, but it's not the same. I better don't use that combination. You see a lot of water here because you have to have water, and you have to have the pads, and you have to have the pump, and you have to have the clean means to spread the water on top of the pads. So it becomes a kind of a nice invention that it was done a long time ago by the people living in the Southwest. Because let me tell you something, if it's humid outside, this is not gonna work. It's gonna work just like a regular fan then. But since most of the time in the Southwest humidity is under 30%, right now it's probably about 16% humidity, any water here with a little bit of a breeze will drop the temperature inside the house down to 74 to 76 degrees Fahrenheit. So think about it. This unit, when you have the right conditions outside, it'll cool your house down to 74 degrees. That's nice, because these things do not consume a lot of electricity. This is what you have, a motor that is probably a half a horsepower, maybe 2/3 of a horsepower. Okay, that's how much current you drawing on these units. You can have them all day long. You can have them 24 hours. They'll go like a horse until something bad happens, and this just they quit on you. But normally you don't do that. You use them all night, and sometimes during the day, because if you have a house which is built to stay cool night in summer and to be warm at night in winter, well, then it's working with this unit that is trying to maintain your temperature inside the house around 74 to 76 degrees with just water and a half horsepower motor and a little pump like the one I showed you before, 7500. You can get it bigger, but that's fine. That 7500 works fine here. And then the essentials, these things has to be, these holes, little holes that I showed you before, those little holes has to be clean, because that's where the water is coming out. And of course, the little hose here has to be in good shape, and normally it will be. Just be careful with it, and it'll last you a few years. So basically, you have this unit here. It's a low profile because people don't talk too much about these units. It's just a swamp cooler, master cooler, but they are in the heart of your house as far as keeping the temperature fresh during the day and at night. And if you see that duct going down, that's what is going on there into the house, and it is attached. It works together with the furnace, the heater. So in summertime, this air is gonna go through the vent inside your house, away from the furnace, away from the heater unit. So in winter time, we close this duct with a thin piece of metal that is called a cookie sheet. That cookie sheet goes in there, kind of block the airflow, but then allows the furnace, the heat, to stay inside the house. So for the summertime, here we go. A very practical way to do it. And wintertime, well, you have your regular furnace, which is normally consuming city gas, and it's just gas heating the air. It's dry air coming out of the vents, but it will keep the house warm. And you might want to have on the side a little chimney. The chimney will come handy. You can see there, it'll come handy if it gets too cold and you want to burn some wood, because these chimneys are not built to heat the entire house. It's just like for the living room, they look nice, and they do burn wood and is warm in the living room, but it's not made to heat the entire house. But push come to shovel, you have a plan B here if your gas goes out in winter time. And you can have another kind of stove outside in the patio that you can burn some wood there too. But basically this is what it is. So I'm going to put this back together, and tonight my wife should feel a lot more comfortable now if I can get the temperature down to about 74. And I did it myself. So this is something that you can do yourself, but do it right, the best you can. Make sure you understand what is happening, and you can still go one more year. Don't pretend that these pads are good when they have to be replaced. These are not there yet, but pretty soon I'll have to replace them. But things like that the motor is still working and the belt is in good shape, not cracks. Sometimes when the belt shows cracks, that means that needs to be replaced, and if it is loose, it needs to be tightened or replaced. So basically that's what it is. This puppy here is good to go. One last thing I just saw, the water lines, make sure that they are in good shape. Usually they go for a few years. The water lines attached to the base where the water tank is. So it comes, see that water line? It goes like that to the side of the house. I like to have my water lines outside of the house, on top of the house. Some houses have the water line inside in the attic. I don't like that, because when you have a leak, that's it. That means trouble. So keep your water lines outside of the house, on top of the roof, but keep an eye on them because they do crack with the sun. The sun here this is desert. We go to the extremes here, but if we can keep a balance with nature here, And with caliche, we can live together in a practical way that is not going to cost you an arm and a leg. This is Carlos Davila, one more time, until we meet again. And this is how it should sound. The belt not too tight, not too loose. The motor running smoothly. And the pads are completely wet. That unit there, that pump, that's the pump that's going to cycle the water outside to the patio. The other pump, the 7500 that I showed you before, that's the one sucking in all that water from that little tank into the top through the pads. And right here, sometimes you have to keep an eye on this. Right there, that floater is supposed to stop the flow of water when it reaches a certain point. So you kind of have to adjust that. Otherwise, it's going to be running water all the time. You don't want that to happen. But other than that, that's it. You save a few bucks every year, because they're going to tell you you need to buy a new master cooler or a new swamp cooler. Not so fast, buddy. So this is Carlos Davila again, until we meet again. Goodbye.